Hello world, it's Dave again, and I got another Lucid Dreaming Log entry to do here. I've been really lazy to update this in the last few days, so I've accumulated again one, two, three, four, five dreams to update the log with. But something I can talk about is immediately interesting now that I've been doing this for a little bit. And, it's not just the progress in lucid dreaming that I hope to make, but to examine all the different aspects of dreaming and experiencing it and whatever keeping this log might bring about. And one of the first things that I found is really cool is because I've kept this log and because I've been doing it for a little while now, and I have these times where I'm more or less diligent regarding filling it in, that I do give myself at times a period away from dreaming or thinking about dreaming where when I come back to this log, I have fully forgotten the dreams that I've experienced. Especially, like I said, I've backed up a log of over 5 dreams now, and so in a moment ago when I was thinking about, oh, I wonder what those dreams were, I couldn't recall them at all. And so I start to read through the logbook as a reminder, and it's cool because it doesn't seem to be matter how long ago I go back. Not only will I be able to read and have some idea of what it was that I dreamt about, but I actually remember the dreams. You don't just read the words off the page and go, "Oh, I dreamed about that." You remember the dream itself, and it's crazy to me. I didn't realize I could recall dreams that went back that far, even if I had this. I thought that this would just kind of be a record that'd be like, "Oh, I dreamed about that," but I didn't realize it would fully wake up that part of my brain that had experienced the dream and give me the full-on recollection of what it was that I went through. So that's really cool. That's something to note as I go along, and I experience this as being a little different and something I didn't see coming. So really cool. Kind of one of the essence of why I'm doing this, for cool realizations like that. So without further ado, I'll jump into the dreams. Just hammer them out really quick. Try and keep this under 10 minutes. So dream 14, January 14th, 2014. 14. It's kind of crazy. Okay. I'm in a multi-story home continuously under attack, constantly repelling waves of assault, better equipped than the attackers. And I remember this dream as I read this. I remember being in this almost like Egyptian-like temple where the inside of it was designed with all these different corresponding waterways that you could go along. And you would float along them and they would lead you to other areas like open pools where people would be swimming, and they would be at all these different levels. Of course, don't ask me how the water floats up and down. It's like that Escher, like a picture of Escher where it's like an illusion where water seems to like float in impossible directions. And so I was floating along one of these things. And I remember as the dream progressed that there was this woman in the pyramid or whatever structure it was that she needed to escape this place. It was really bad. So I had offered my help to try and get her out of there. And so we ended up departing on a horse, kind of a romantic sort of thing there, where we're departing on a horse. I'm riding the horse, she's riding behind me. It's kind of you've got your like Egyptian, but it melds into a fantasy setting. We're outside of the pyramid. It's sort of green forest that we're traveling through and things like that. And I know that we're being pursued. And yeah, we stop a few places. I fight off a few people who are chasing us. And we're eventually tracked down by a group of people, and we're hiding in this old hollowed out ruin. And it says here, when the group enters the ruins, we are fighting. I can hear this thing. It's almost like a whisper in the dream, and I can tell that there's some ethereal creature in there with us, and that's what this thing is that I can hear whispering, and I can see how it's almost moving from person to person in the group that I'm fighting with, defending this woman. And excuse me, it's like it's not just a single thing; it's able to possess multiple people at once. So that's what it's do. It's possessing each of these group for whatever horrible, malevolent purposes it may have. And before, I guess it's jumping around a bit, but that's just the nature of dreams. Before I went into this cave, I got this huge sword, which was really cool. If you've ever played like kind of Final Fantasy VII stuff, it was kind of in that style, where the sword was like overly large for me being able to use it. Let's see. Yeah, the heavy sword isn't really any good though, and that's kind of where the dream ends. It's just fighting these people and realizing that there's some other entity that's in this big chamber that we end up fighting in. And I put in red notes here. It's kind of crazy because the night before this, I watched this movie called Sweetwater. It was this cool new western, and it's about this woman who's basically, well, she looks out for herself pretty good. In fact, she's really good at it. She's a good shot. She fights for herself in the end of it. But I know that there was something subconsciously triggered in my brain that like a woman would need help, and this dream that I had is related to my experience watching that movie. So that's how it was connected. Okay, Dream 15, January 17th, 2014. Okay, let's see. Remember the affections of a woman from a previous psychotic relationship. So can't make these dream logs too personal, but yeah, just a bad relationship that I had. Like for whatever reason, this girl showed up in this dream for a short period of time. I will give a hint that it was one of the shortest relationships that I've ever had. I remember being at my old house. I'm from Vancouver Island, and I remember being at this old house and driving away from it. I went to a board shop to buy equipment, and this is also kind of cool because I've had tons of recent interest in snowboarding because I got back from a snowboarding trip in Japan, and I just know that when I eventually, I'm going to be in Japan for another year, I'm going to sign another contract. When I return, I think I'm going to do the like ski bum lifestyle for at least a full season. I've never done it before. The most I've managed to get up in a single season is like 12 times, and I really want to experience that season where I've gone like 30 times, like you've really, really absorbed it. You've had powder days, beautiful days, just the whole experience. So no surprise that I'm dreaming about snowboards, and this is a cool example of whatever it is that you're thinking about showing up in your dreams, and I can make a note of that. The story with the guy is kind of funny how it went down. I remember it. So let's see. Equipment guy seemed helpful. He said he would hook me up when in truth he sets me up with this hideous board. I remember it was nonsensical, where it had like protruding horns off the end of the board. It was shaped in this like horn shape at the end. I was like, this is just gonna dig in. So he's starting to set me up with that, and it was way too wide. And I noticed that the store is getting busier and busier, and I'm kind of left to my own devices. Well, he starts to help all these other people, and we haven't concluded the transaction. And so I politely asked him after a little while. I was like, man, this is going to take forever. And so I said, how long would it be for another member of staff in this place to be able to help me? And I was then told by him that there was another way to approach that, insinuating that I had been rude to ask. That bastard. So I had told him then that I had not bought a board for 10 years, so I was just looking for a little bit of advice. But I remember being quite offended that I was spoken to in that way in the dream, which I just find hilarious. So that's kind of where it ended. Okay, next dream, moving along. Dream 16, January 19th, 2014. I'm on a trip with my brothers and their friends, and this is kind of like still around the time I was obsessively interested in the snowboarding, and we're on a mountain resort. And we're at a hotel at one point. There's lots of green, lots of white. It's all mixing together, those colors with the snow and the trees and stuff. And there's some of their old friends there as well. And I remember a check-in counter. A lot of the dream goes fuzzy. Let's see. End of the dream. I've noticed this a lot. There's a lot of captivity in my dreams. I'm sure I should look up that meaning. Why are people always getting captured and fleeing? Why is that? Why is that so constantly? I mean, there's pretty obvious, you feel trapped in your life or something, but I really don't for the most part. I think I feel pretty, what would it be, liberated in my life right now. I'm doing tons of stuff that I'm interested in, but maybe I do feel a little trapped, until I've like really realized some huge dreams that I have. I'm very afraid of let's call it like a predictable a life where you can easily see to the end of it. You're like, I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, and then I just kind of follow those many years to the end of the road and I die. And I don't want a life like that. I want a life filled with surprise and new things. And so maybe that's why. Going on a tangent there, just thinking about it. So anyways, the psycho captures a bunch of people, and we're locked in this nondescript apartment building. And I remember in this sort of like, it's almost like an insane asylum room where you just have padded walls, but there is a window at the end of it, and the window has been like bent open slightly, just like it was pressed outwards. The whole frame of it, and a corner was open on it, like you could get out. eventually one of our friends is allowed to see myself and the couple of people have been kept in this room. And I remembered it's so funny because there's like a guard who's working for the crazy guy standing by the door, just outside. But he's like, okay, you can talk to your friend, but for a brief period of time. And I remember my friend being so non-conspicuous, who has his like jacket up over his head, and he's like, "Come and talk to me," like you would put your jacket over your head to block yourself from the wind. And I go up, and inside the jacket, he's got like a map of how we can escape, which is just ridiculous and funny because like the guy doesn't know that we're talking about escaping, but that's just dreams for you right there. Pretty funny stuff. Yeah, so the window is pressed open. Eventually, friend is allowed to see us. Brings us a map for escape. So that was kind of the end of it. And I sort of woke up nearly after that. The next dream is pretty cool. This is actually I have five dreams in total. One that I haven't written down, but I will record in this video, which is just funny. So Dream 17, January 22nd, 2014. It was a colonial sort of era dream where you've got, like powder, muskets, and stuff like that. It took place, the setting seemed like it was England. I was there with my brothers. It was like some of their old friends and everything like that. I think some people in the group are going to be married, but as people were together, this ceremony where people were going to get married, the party where everybody is in the dream is interrupted and it comes under attack by people in blue. And it looks like there's going to be a war. It's kind of like this French versus the English kind of thing, which is interesting. And I was given this beautiful curved sword in this sheath that I remember. And it was kind of cool because when I took this thing out, it was one of the few times in a dream that it just wasn't a floppy sword. You get these swords or guns in dreams and you shoot them and then they don't even work and stuff. But I was like, no, this sword's really beautiful. It's going to work. I had a gun in the dream, but I lost it. And I felt that was, I had to find this gun because it can't be going into the fight with just my sword. I would need a gun to be effective. I was obsessed with this detail in the dream. And so I went for this big, long look around everywhere to see if I could find a gun. And I snuck into this barracks at one point, and there was a whole bunch of people eating there, but I was busted by a group of recruits and eating in this hall while I was trying to take one of these guns and trying to take theirs. It was okay, and it's weird. I remember even saying something in the dream. I made a comment about knowing the future, which is like something strange. It was like I knew the war that my dream was relating to, so I knew the outcome of the war. It's just weird to remember a specific comment that you're making in your dream. That's happened more and more. I've remembered specific things that I've had said in dreams, but I've not done the diligence to write them down. So I'm gonna, make a focus of that in the dreams that I write down in the future here. Let's see. I was late for the fight. I knew that by the time that I've done all this searching for a gun. So I knew that I needed to get out to it and get on a horse or something like this. And that's where the dream entirely lost its consistency because I was like, oh, I got to get there fast. And somebody was like, why don't you take the bus? I was like, what? I mean, even in the dream, that was one of like the few times I almost woke up in the dream, almost went lucid because I was like, a bus? But this is colonial era. How could I take a bus or a cab? But then I eventually found a cab and I was taking that to the war, to the fight. And that's kind of where the dream ended. And then finally, I got this last little clip of a dream where I didn't even write this one down, but I just thought it was so funny, the thing that I dreamed about, just like pure random. I had one about a snowman earlier, that this is definitely wins the new like weirdest dream award. And it was that I used to go to this boarding school where I didn't actually board, but I was a day student. I lived in the area. Everybody else who went to the school boarded, but I would just drive there. But I was assigned a room in the boarding school, and I'd try and help these guys keep the room clean or at least not create too much of a mess there. And something that they had at the school, it was called number one inspections. And so once a week, they would inspect the rooms, or whatever the housemasters were, would inspect the rooms to make sure that you had cleaned your room. And number one inspection meant that it was incredibly severe, that no dust could be found, and it was difficult. You could fail your number one inspection, and that meant that you had to stay in for extra study in the evening. This is very like British style regimented education. Really good education, but I mean, it's pretty severe in some of those aspects. And I remember in this dream being in the room, and the room needed to be clean, and we hadn't done a particularly good job of it. And one of the guys who was coming around to check the rooms was gonna, check on the progress we'd made. And who walks in the door to check the room? It was Kanye West. And I was like, huh? It was almost one of the times again I could wake up in the dream and realize it was lucid dreaming. And he comes in and he was just like, it was quite kind. He was like, no, guys, this won't do. And he starts going around the room and like folding stuff and he starts cleaning the room. And I was like, wow, that's pretty, I never thought I'd see this. And then at the end, he's like, so you guys will pass, but you got to do better than this. I was like, that's true. I was like, I never thought I thought I'd say this, but thank you, Kanye West, for cleaning my room. So I thought that was absolutely hilarious. Maybe I don't know why. I think there's a lot of news on like YouTube and stuff about Kim Kardashian and Kanye West, and so maybe that found its way in. I do listen to some of his new album a little bit as well, I guess. I don't know, but that was just straight up strange. That was just bizarre. But it made for a really entertaining dream, and that line, like, I never thought I'd say this, but thanks for cleaning my room, Kanye. So that's that. That's the end of these dreams. That's this log updated and everything. So if you enjoy these, I'll be making more diligence because I've been lazy about writing them down into my journal, but I will be doing more. So like, subscribe, share. Thanks for checking out the video on my channel. And like I like to say, until we meet again next time, world, thanks for tripping with Dave. Ciao for now.